Am I the wrongdoer for blocking a man after he bought me a $500 plus dinner? I was invited on a date and he asked me, "What's your favorite restaurant?" My honest answer was my favorite place is a bit much for a first date, but I did still tell him about it because, well, I thought he was cool and I truly loved the place, so I tell everyone about so they'll go. I want them to stay booked and busy so they'll stay open so I can keep going. I said that for a first date we could go somewhere more casual like this cool Mexican spot between us that has over 300 tequilas in their tequila library but is still pretty cheap when it comes to food. Amazing tacos with handmade tortillas. But ultimately, he wanted to pick. I was trying to be helpful and make suggestions. Also, we live in different parts of a big city with terrible traffic that's extremely car dependent. My favorite restaurant, on the other hand, is about $500 for two. I take myself there sometimes after personal accomplishments or just for a treat. Sometimes I go just to have one of their James Beard award-winning cocktails, LOL bougie AF I know, and some apps. Well, this gentleman, upon researching the menu, decides this is where he wants to take me for dinner. He really wanted to try it out. Of course I agree. Despite the price point, it's actually a pretty chill spot, don't have to dress up, and is a great date spot, even a first date spot. If you're in a different tax bracket than me, but as much as I knew he could be, for me first dates are usually inexpensive. Considering you don't know the person and the conversation is much more important than the meal. We have apps. We have drinks. We have dinner. We have conversation. We have dessert. We have a good time from my perspective. This means we ran up a serious bill. Pay time comes. We do the check dance. Sort of. Of course. Since it's a first date, I say, oh, separate checks. Not that I don't pay on subsequent dates. I just mean that first time when you don't know if a guy thinks if a woman pays that means she's uninterested. He also says separate checks, so cool. We're on the same page. Basically at the same time. As in our words overlapped. I won't lie, I hesitated and said it after he was saying it. Because he asked me out and also insisted we went there after he read the menu and really wanted to try the food. I really want to describe menu items, but it's one of those places that's so specific, and also the chef uses what's local and in season, so I'd kind of be revealing too much info. So our separate checks come. No problem by me. I put my card down. He puts his down. When our server comes back to grab them, he takes my card. Gives her both the checks. Says he'd covering it all. Looks at my card intensely. It's not that I think he's some numbers savant where he was stealing my info by looking at my card, though I have bartended for years and a dumbass/genius who worked with me could memorize card numbers at a glance and then use them for online purchases till he finally got a felony. And it wasn't even his little comment of oh, now I finally know your last name. Which I of course wouldn't tell him before. It was the game he played. He invited me on a date, so I assumed he was paying. He then said separate checks, making sure I knew I was paying for myself. Then he grabbed the checks and paid it all, annoying the server and me. I'm feeling like this was a shit test to see if I would pony up to a $250 plus each restaurant bill. I felt like he was checking to see if I was a gold digger or something. Even though I'd literally told him we shouldn't go there the first date. The place I suggested we could have had tacos and tequila flights for less than $50. So, after I said thank you for dinner, I got in my Uber. Left. Blocked him. I told one of my friends this story today laughing, and they told me I was actually the villain in the story. I'm just not into shittest or games. Am I the wrongdoer? Edit. To be clear, the core issue I was freaking out about was him looking at my card and exclaiming with victory that he knows my last name. He'd actually asked my last name before, and I explained that I'm a former bartender and having such a public-facing job led to me being stalked, police involved, etc., so I wasn't comfortable sharing that so quickly. I feel like everyone is caught up on the cost of dinner, including my friend who I've actually bought dinner for at this spot before, and not the fact that a man read my private information, regardless of whether I'd asked him not to. Edit, I tipped. I insisted. But y'all made me feel like I should Venmo him. So I did. And no, I didn't expect him to pay. I hesitated because it's the South, and if you're too eager to pay, often a man will feel you don't like him at all. It's a culture thing. Also, I'm a marketer and he's a teacher, so the idea that I'm a gold digger is wild to me. I could care less about a man's income as long as he's educated, whether formal or not, driven, and passionate. To be honest, my ideal date, maybe not first, but in general, is microdosing shrooms in a park, people watching, and eating various snack foods. Cheap as fuck. But if you ask me my favorite restaurant while getting to know me, I'm going to tell the truth. I didn't just suggest the Mexican place, but also why was it solely my burden to decide where we went. Whatever. I have learned from some of y'all, and I can see how I may have just misread someone awkward. I'd also still prefer to date someone who isn't oblivious to the fact that women are cautious with their personal info for a reason. Last edit, he picked up my card and stared at it. It wasn't just a glance. My username is just a Veruca Salt reference. Way too many people have seen this and now I feel weird. Thanks for sharing with me all of your thoughts and perspectives. Except you /National Village 2363, who hopes I live in a regret and misery for the remainder of my time on Earth. I hope you don't. I hope you find a happiness that will allow you to no longer desire to be hateful to strangers you disagree with.